Howdy, boys. This weekend we have UFC Fight Night Magny versus Prates. I'm going to give my thoughts, opinions, picks, and predictions for this card. Let's get into it, not wasting time. First fight on the card, Tresean Gore versus Antonio Tricoli. I'm going to be going with Tresean Gore. I think he's a bit more dangerous overall than Antonio. His last loss, though, does make me a little concerned for my pick. Losing to TKO in the first round to Cody Brundage is not a good look. And I guess it could be worse. Cody Brundage did make it out of round one with Bo Nickel, so he gained a little bit of stock for that, but still a bad loss nonetheless. And speaking of losses, though, Antonio, his last fight against Sharon Magomedov, was certainly interesting. He looked pretty good in round one, still a competitive round two, and then it kind of seemed like he took a dive. I mean, he literally walked out there in full punching bag mode and just got the shit beat out of him in the third round. Barely threw anything, just backed up against the cage with his hands up. And I might be remembering it wrong, but it wasn't that long ago, and that's what I took away from the fight, that he looked good until he just quit. If it wasn't something along the lines of like, hey, walk out there and get your ass beat, that makes me lose a lot more faith in him than taking a dive. Because if you just all of a sudden had kind of like a mental block or break between rounds and just quit and give up, to me that's worse than taking a dive. It shows you don't have the will and want to be here. And so I'm going to go with Tresean. I think he's stronger, a little bit better IQ all around, and I think he will be able to outpoint Tricoli to a decision. Second fight on the card, Gaston Bolanos versus Cortavius Romeus. I've always thought Cortavius Romeus sounded like some fucking Victorian name or something. It's a pretty badass name. I like it a lot. But I am going to be picking against him. I think Bolanos will have a higher chance of finishing this on the feet, and seeing as Cortavius in his fight against, damn it, I'm already forgetting his name, Ramon Tavares? Is that who it was? Yeah, Ramon Tavares on the Contender Series his first time. He got starched in like 30 seconds. And Ramon is one of the few people that Cortavius has fought that are worth a shit. The only two guys he fought, he lost both of them. And I guess you could also say, Bolanos fought Marcus and lost in the second round to TKO, but I think Marcus is actually pretty damn good. Most of the guys on Cortavius' record are absolutely bottom of the barrel wins. His last fight before he got back on the Contender Series for a second time against Eric Vo. Eric Vo is 2-10 and has been submitted 6 times. So can you really find it that impressive that Cortavius submitted him, a dude that's been submitted 5 times before out of his 10 losses? So yeah, I think he's beat a lot of nobodies and lost to anyone worth a shit. So I'm going with Bolanos by second round TKO. I do think there is potential for Bolanos to be submitted. Cortavius does have a good submission game, even though I was just shitting on it. He is open for it. But if he can keep it on the feet and keep composed, I think he can find a finish. Third fight on the card, Melissa Mullins versus Claudio Segula. I'm going with Melissa Mullins. Looking through Claudia's record, I see that she has never fought someone who has won a fight. So I value none of her wins. And I also have never seen her fight before, so I can't really value her all that much. And I know Melissa did lose to TKO to Nora Conole in the second round. Not a good look, but at least she has beaten people with wins. So yeah, I'm going to go with decision by Melissa Mullins. I would not be surprised, though, if she gets, I don't want to say robbed, but I won't be surprised if she's on the wrong side of a decision victory. Fourth fight on the card, Cody Stamann versus Damon Blackshear. I'm going to go with Damon Blackshear. He's got a sizable reach advantage, about 7 inches, and a 4-inch height advantage. This fight most likely will take place majority of the time on the ground, and I feel they're both pretty comparable in their skills, but I do think the size advantage will play into Damon Blackshear's favor a little more, and he also has a submission threat, and I don't think Cody... No, he does have 2 subs. I think Damon is more dangerous on the ground, and even more dangerous on the feet, potentially. Cody does have the experience advantage, but like I said, I'm going to lean towards Damon by decision. Fifth fight on the card, Matthews Simmelsberger versus Charles Radke. I'm going with Charles Radke. I do still like Matthew Simmelsberger, but man, he's on a fucking 3-fight losing streak. And before that, he lost to Alex Morono. Not a great person to be losing to. Preston Parsons isn't a good person to be losing to either. Jeremiah Wells and Eros Medic aren't bad losses, but still, Matthew Simmelsberger is too hit or miss for me to trust in him. And I do like Radke. I think he is pretty skilled. He did lose to not Gilbert Urbina. He beat Gilbert Urbina, as you should. But he lost to he lost to Carlos Prates, which is not a bad loss at all, seeing he could be the second coming of Anderson Silva. So yeah, I'm going with Charles Radke. I think he could potentially get it done by finish, maybe in the third round, but if not, probably decision. I don't see a submission happening. Sixth fight on the card, Mansur Abdul Malik versus Dusko Todorovic. This is a pretty easy pick for me, at least. I'm going with Mansur by KO, first round. Simple as Mansur hit hard, Dusko don't have a chin. Really ain't much more I could say about it. I mean, potentially Dusko could get a KO himself. He is very win one, lose one, but Mansur has never been finished. I have full faith in him pulling this one off. Can't trust Dusko's chin no more. Seventh fight on the card and the headliner of the prelims, Zaleski dos Santos versus Nicholas Dalby. I didn't realize that both of these men are now certified unks. Dalby is pushing 40. It's fucking crazy to me. They've been fighting for ages. Dos Santos since 2009 and Dalby since 2010. And this is also a rematch. Their first fight was 2015, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to check just so I'm not spreading misinformation. Yeah, 2015, May 30th. Dalby won the first fight by a decision. Not shocking. He is kind of a decision machine. He's only got 11 finishes in his 23 fights. Dos Santos is a bit more of a finisher. By no means prolific, but he also has been finished himself. Dalby has surprisingly never been finished, only brought to decision. And seeing as neither guy really fights their age, they both fight very well for being older. I'm going to go with Dalby. I think he's going to get it done by decision once again. History repeats itself. Opener of the main card, Luana Pinheiro versus Jillian Robertson. I'm going with Jillian Robertson. I cannot trust Luana Pinheiro after pulling a Aljamain Sterling against Randa Marcos. That was fucking abhorrent. She just got submitted by Angela Hill, and if you're getting submitted by Angela Hill, you absolutely can be submitted by Jillian Robertson. They're also currently on the opposites of streaks. Jillian Robertson is on a 2-fight win streak, and Luana is on a 2-fight losing streak. And as mentioned, she got subbed by Angela Hill. So I'm picking Jillian by submission at some point in the fight. I'm not sure on the rounds. It could be late or early. But I know for a fact Jillian is going to get this done by submission. Ninth fight on the card, Gerald Meerschaert versus Rainer de Ridder. Never really heard of Rainer de Ridder before. Not big into one or any other organizations. I need to, though, so when matchups like this come along, I can be a little more versed in the debuting fighter. But after looking into his recent matches and his history, Rainer does look pretty impressive. Although, can he get past the GOAT GM3 is another question. It seems Rainer does his best on the ground. And while Gerald is a submission threat, he has also been submitted 8 times in his career. Ridder has been KO'd twice in his last 3 fights by the same guy, Malkin, Anatoly Malkin, 14-0 guy, 13 finishes. So I guess I don't know who Malkin is, but nothing to be ashamed of. I guess he's a really good fighter. I'm assuming Ritter's going to be the fresher fighter, being 2 years younger and having a lot less experience in the cage. First hearing of that statement, it could appear a bonus for GM3, but man, GM3 has so many miles on his career, and he's taken a lot of punishment, and I just don't know how long he can keep on fraud checking guys. Man, I want to pick GM3 because I love him, but I'm going to go with Ridder by second round submission, maybe early third round submission. But I would not be surprised at all if GM3 pulls this off. He is the GOAT, after all. 10th fight on the card, Ricky Tercios versus Bernardo Sapage. This is a pretty hard fight for me to pick. Even though Ricky is goofy as fuck and pillow-fisted as all get out, he still is decent and has only lost to pretty good guys. Like Amian Zahabi and Raul Rosas Jr. are not bad losses by any means. And on the other hand, even though Vinicius Oliveira is not a bad person to lose against, the KO itself was awful. I almost feel that is a career-changing KO loss. Like, I don't know how he's going to be able to take damage after that. It might be one of, like, the KOs of the year. It was so fucking brutal. But again, he's a finisher, though. And Ricky's not. Although Ricky is hard to finish, this is just a very coin-flippy 50-50 fight for me. I imagine that Bernardo is going to be the favorite, so it would do good to pick a dog, even though I mainly try to pick off who I think is going to win, not on, like, actually betting. But I'm going to go with Ricky. I think Sapage might be a little gun-shy, possibly. This is that was his first TKO loss, and it being one of the worst I've ever seen could affect him mentally, and he could potentially not be able to take damage as well as he used to. So I'm going to go with Ricky by decision. He is a decision merchant, and I think he'll dole out another one. The feature fight of the card, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Denise Gomes. I'm going with Denise Gomes. I think Karolina has doled out her last decision. Not forever, but she'll probably keep fighting after this. She has entered aunt territory. I think she's starting to slow down. I think Denise will be too fast, too strong, too youthful. I won't be shocked, though, if Karolina pulls off some crafty vet shit and outpoints her to a decision, but I'm going with Denise by decision. In the co-main event, Cody Garbrandt versus Miles Johns. At first, I was going to choose Miles Johns, and then I kind of thought about it more, and I'm going with Cody Garbrandt. I think Miles Johns is fucking overrated, overhyped, kind of mid. He is not a finisher by any means. Often goes to decision, and I don't think his IQ is that great overall. Cody's more dangerous, has better fight IQ. People make more out of his KO losses than they should. Like, he fought like an absolute goon against Munoz and got KO'd. Went down to flyweight to try to fight Prates. Shouldn't have done that. Dumb decision. It's like every one of his losses after the TJ ones, and he did fight TJ in an angry, ill-mannered way, and then just started scrapping with Munoz, and then made a bad weight class choice against France. And now that he's started to lock in a little more, stop being so fucking goofy, and actually fight behind real technique and fundamentals, he's looked a lot better. Hell, he looked really good against Figgy in round 1. And it's no shame to lose against Figgy. Figgy is fucking like a top 20 overall fighter. So I'm going to go with Cody by decision, although I could see him getting a late finish, maybe like a third round finish. But Miles Johns is tough, and Cody's a lot more reserved now. So I'm going to go with Cody Garbrandt getting it done by decision. And in the main event, Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. I'm obviously going with Prates. He's a minus 900 favorite for a reason. He's on I think a 9-fight KO streak, one of the longest current active KO streaks in the UFC. And I just don't see Neil Magny fraud-checking this guy. This is the gatekeeper test of all time for Carlos Prates. And I think he's going to pass it with flying colors. Magny's got some great wins on his resume. He's getting up there in age. He's taken beatings. Hell, he took a bad beating against Michael Morales. And I think it will be no different with Carlos Prates. I don't think Prates will get it done as quickly as Morales. He's a bit slower of a starter than Michael Morales. So I'm either going to go with a second round KO or potentially a third round KO. It'd be interesting if we did get to see it go into the championship rounds and we could already quell the notion that eventually will come up of, oh, Carlos has never been in the 4th and 5th round when he finally starts breaking into the top 15 and top 10. But I don't see it going to championship rounds. Carlos is too dangerous. Most of his finishes, let me check just to be sure. Yeah, I don't think actually no. His current KO win streak, all of them come in the 1st or 2nd round. So I'm going to say a 2nd round KO.